What's up, Internet? Trevor Starkey here from TrevorTrove.com, here for night 5 of my E3 2016 predictions, and that brings us to Sony and the PlayStation conference. Sony definitely is probably the one that I am the most familiar with out of all the publishers. The PlayStation experience a couple years ago was definitely my first show in the industry that I attended and kind of set me down this wild and crazy path of whatever it is I'm doing. So I definitely had a lot to kind of mull over for this one, and definitely cut a few pretty solid predictions just to stay down at the standard 5 that I've been doing. So without further ado, let's look at my 5 predictions for the PlayStation conference. Number 1, PlayStation VR shows off at least 3 new previously unannounced titles, and you can demo PSVR yourself at local GameStops starting tomorrow. So starting Tuesday, June 14th, I believe that's the calendar. Let me check. Yes, June 14th. So PlayStation VR set to launch right around the corner in October. Makes sense that it's going to probably be a highlight of the show. However, because it is notoriously difficult to really show off, and it is a kind of you have to experience it for yourself kind of thing, I don't think they'll spend all that much time on it. Really kind of highlighting a few kind of big spectacle showcases, and getting big pops like 100-foot robot golf did at the PlayStation experience. But then really kind of putting VR aside and going into kind of the more traditional games that you'll see coming out the rest of the year or beyond. And because I've predicted it elsewhere, if they come out and announce that No Man's Sky is VR compatible, I'm not going to count it towards these 3 titles that I'm looking for, because I've predicted that elsewhere, and I don't want to double dip. And then as far as being able to try it tomorrow at your local GameStop, that's building off of a report back in April where GameStop announced that they would be partnering with Sony and having PSVR in their stores for live in-person demos all around the country starting in June. So timing seems to match up. I think we'll kind of start seeing that next week. Prediction number 2. Activision basically gets a mini conference within the Sony one. For years, Activision's kind of gotten away with not doing their own conference because they do partner up with whoever tends to be the industry leader at the time. For years, obviously, they were doing their Call of Duty partnerships with Microsoft, and now this generation, between Call of Duty and Destiny, they've really been partnering with Sony a lot. So I think we'll see them showcase Infinite Warfare, the new Call of Duty game. I think we'll see, even though Bungie did their Destiny live stream yesterday as of this recording, announcing the new Rise of Iron expansion. I think they'll come out and showcase, as they do with every Destiny expansion, the PlayStation exclusive content that you get for that first year if you're playing on PlayStation. Gears and whatever Strike is probably involved. Most likely, because Adam Boyes is a huge Destiny fan, he'll probably be involved somehow in that reveal, that showcase. And then lastly, I think Activision will go ahead and make the big announcement that a lot of people have been clamoring for a while now, that Crash Bandicoot is coming back in Skylanders. There's been a rumor going around this week. There was a presumed leak in like a, I think, Korean maybe retailer announcing a PlayStation exclusive Skylanders Crash Bandicoot pack. So I think maybe that comes to fruition and we see it get announced there as part of kind of the Activision corner next week. So that's prediction number 2. Number 3. The Last Guardian release date is set for August 30th. Now, assuming the promise of last year's E3 holds true, that The Last Guardian is coming out in 2016, they dated it, I think you can pretty much at this point go one of 3 ways. I see Last Guardian going one of 3 ways. Either 1, it is announced at the conference as available now. 2, it gets put out to pasture in December in kind of the no man's land of post-Thanksgiving shopping purchases and kind of left to die there. Or 3, and this is what I'm banking on, they try and give it a little bit of a marketing push and try and do whatever they can to recoup the cost of nearly 10 years of development and launch it ahead of all of the big AAA titles that you will see come the fall. So I'm kind of getting out ahead of all that, August 30th. It's a niche game anyway, so they're not going to do too much to put behind it, but I feel like saying it's available now or putting it in December are probably just too much of a waste for all the years that they've put into the game. And I even thought at one point maybe throwing out a prediction like, oh, and it's going to be one of the July PlayStation Plus games, but again, that would mean they're getting 0 money on the game. So I think they need to do whatever they can to try and recoup their costs, and so I think kind of getting out ahead of everything else this fall is probably their best bet to do so. Number 4, the Tim Schafer Entertainment block. Tim Schafer of Double Fine, obviously, has become a kind of a big staple of the PlayStation Experience conferences, announcing the remasters of a lot of his old games. The most recent one, the Psychonauts was announced Psychonauts 2 had just been announced and was being crowdfunded through Fig, and he announced the Full Throttle remaster, kind of finishing up the Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle trilogy. I don't think we'll see anything new from the Full Throttle remaster yet. I think that'll probably be something that we'll see at PlayStation Experience. That's kind of been the trend there. But I do think he'll come out, talk about how Psychonauts was released on the PlayStation 4 this week as one of the PS2 for PS4 games. I think he'll show off a little bit of Psychonauts 2, which got funded back in January. And then I think we will also see a little snippet of Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin, which is the VR title that he's been working on. And then to kind of fold in what Sony did last year in terms of incorporating a crowdfunding piece into their showcase, I think maybe he will announce a new crowdfunding game through Fig, his platform, and my guess is a sequel to Brutal Legend with Jack Black set to return. I think it will be in partnership with Sony, and yeah, I think he'll kind of take the stage to do that, just like they did with Shenmue 3 last year. We'll get a little bit of, you want it, help us make it. So that is prediction number 4. Prediction number 5. The Final Fantasy Remake will get a new trailer, and part 1 of whatever this multi-chapter game that they're making will center around Midgar and release in 2017. Now, if I end up being right about this one, that's going to be, I will basically be 3 for 3 in my Final Fantasy predictions. A year ago at E3, I predicted that the reason that the then Final Fantasy VII PC port had been delayed out was because they were going to go ahead and basically say, hey, we got that people were pissed about that when we announced it at PlayStation Experience, so here, we're finally giving you this remaster that you've all been looking for, and that's exactly what they did. They announced the remake a year ago at E3, and then again at PlayStation Experience, I predicted that the port would then finally be available like that day on PlayStation 4, as well as we would get some new footage from the remaster, and we did. We got the first gameplay footage even. So they're really kind of seem to be ramping up development on that game pretty quickly. So I think, sure, we'll get a new trailer showcasing a little bit more of Midgar, and they're going to try and move basically heaven and earth to get it out, to get whatever this part 1 section of the game is out by 2017 to coincide with the 20th anniversary of the original launch. So those are my 5 predictions for the PlayStation conference. I had a handful of others that I didn't even touch on, possibly a throwaway joke about Shuhei Yoshida finally letting people change their PSN names. Maybe we get that this conference at long last. We got a potential God of War game that's out there that's been long rumored that we might finally see here. We've got whatever Sony Bend is working on that we haven't seen for forever, that is allegedly now the Dead Don't Ride game. Final Fantasy 15 is probably going to have a pretty good showcase piece, since it's launching here in a couple months. So I didn't even get to really include any of those, so we'll see if any of these come true. As always, let me know what your predictions for the E3 conferences are in the comments below, and we will see if any of these wild and crazy things come true come Monday, June 13th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. As always, thank you for watching. I'm Trevor from Trevor Trove, and I will see you next time.